Krissy, I love that you're back in Maine.
Yo, what up, though? Calling for Krissy T.
Oh, it's Krissy.
What's she gonna say next?
Krissy T in the morning, more like Krissy Unfiltered in the morning.
Maine's new way to wake up. Krissy in the morning on Portland's #1 hit music station, Q97.9.
Yes, Krissy, you're on the queue. Let's go. Woo!
My life be like
Krissy in the morning
Miss Peaches, I have a question. My life be like
on Q97.9.
So all the haters, you got to back off.
All right, I got to walk you through this because the flight cancellation that you have heard about, the global tech outage, the national global tech outage you heard about from Friday, it is very real, my friends, and your girl found herself right smack dab in the middle of it, okay? Now, you know me, I travel a lot, and I do it a lot on the weekends. I'll take a quick weekend trip if I don't have vacation days. You know, I'll go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For a morning show, I do get lucky sometimes. I can, you know, by the time my show is done, it is still the morning time, so I take those risks sometimes. However, this time, not the best risk. Here's what happened. So, over 1,500 U.S. flights have been canceled for a third day straight, meaning yesterday, as in Sunday, that was the third day straight that airlines were struggling to recover from a global tech outage that you've seen all over the internet, it's all over TikTok. It's everywhere at this point, and it left thousands of passengers, including myself, stranded at airports. So it first started for me, and we're going to talk more on this later, but it first started for me when I flew out of Portland and I was trying to go to LA. And it was funny because I'm like, I got delayed, which is weird coming out of a Portland jetport. And those of you that know Portland jetport, the best part about it is it's small, there's never any lines, and you never get delayed. There's nothing to be delayed about. We live in the middle of nowhere. There are cows at our airport. So first, that was the first weird sign because I had no idea this was going on because I was in the airport doing the airport thing. I wasn't looking at my phone really or news or anything like that. So this was all happening while I'm in the airport. You know, my mom and dad are like, oh no, I wonder what she's doing about it. And I'm having no idea. I just think I'm getting delayed. So then the delay goes on for more than an hour. Now I'm 2 hours delayed at Portland. I'm just like, this is bizarre. So I finally board the plane. And then to get to LA, typically your layover is somewhere in, you know, Chicago, something like that. And I was texting Joey from CYY. He's one of my good friends here at the station, on one of our sister stations. And he knew I was going to LA. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I have a delay. And then it pushed me into Charlotte. And he's like, why are you going to Charlotte? Like usually from Charlotte, you got to, I mean, usually from, you know, the east side to get to the west coast, you got to go to Chicago. And I'm like, that's my first clue. Something weird is happening. So I fly into Charlotte. And I get delayed again for my second flight to LA. I mean, this thing is just wild at this point. And I'm supposed to be across the country at this point for a Red Sox game. I missed that. I missed that game. I got there, but I missed the game. So I'm looking into online because I'm finally getting service again, which, by the way, guys, this was crazy. Everybody in the airport, nobody had service. So not only are we stranded in these airports that we're not familiar with, but none of us have service. It got to a point where we're looking around, and I even went up to strangers, and I'm like, hey, I know this is really weird. I'm so sorry, but I feel like you might be in this with me. But I can't even get in contact with anybody in the outside world. And they're like, me neither. At this point, you guys, I'm thinking we're under some kind of attack. I'm like, I fly enough and I am very well traveled that I knew something was going on. Like something doesn't seem right. So at this point, I look at my phone and I realize that around 1,600 flights is what the news was saying by now, within or out of the United States, were canceled by Thursday afternoon, which was when I was trying to fly out. And then even furthermore, I'm looking it up right now, and it says 8,500 U.S. flights were delayed, and more than 1,000 of those were cancellations by Delta Airlines and United Airlines. And guess who was flying United? Your girl right here. So it gets even worse. It gets even worse. On the way home, so I go to LA, I do the thing. I have to redirect a flight to Florida, so I spend a night in Miami. I say, why not? I've got some friends down there, so I went back to Miami. And then there's a direct flight from Miami back to Portland, so I was like, I'll dip and dive with this thing, right? I'll dip and dive. You can sit there and cry about it, or you can just change your plans up. So I changed my plans up. I'm now in Portland Airport 12 hours later from Miami to Portland, which should only take about 3.5 hours tops. I just did it. I just got back from Miami 2 weeks ago for work. So I get into Portland around maybe 3:45 a.m. And I am like, I have a morning show in 2 hours. And I try to accept that. And that's fine. I call my dad. My dad's like, you're young. You can do it. You've done this before. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay, let's go. Well, I'm waiting at the conveyor belt. It goes on 20 minutes. I do not find my bag. I look up. There's a line forming over at the kiosk. And I'm like, oh, no. And again, Portland Airport is so small. There's no reason for people to be lining up asking a question from the attendants. Sometimes I don't even think that there are attendants working in the Portland Jetport. I feel like we run it. We as the passengers run Portland Jetport. So I realized my bag is just not coming out. And this line of people, their bag isn't coming out either. So I look up my bag because I have the bag tag, which is ironic because I never look at the bag tag. I'm way too trusting. I always just throw it right out, but I happen to keep it this time. I look it up and it says my bag is in Philadelphia. At no point did I go to Philadelphia, my friends. In my bag with my expensive things, my medications, everything that belongs to me is now in Philadelphia. We are going on about 4:45. And I am in the Portland Jetport like, oh, my God, you guys, I got to drop the bag. I got to go to work. I have to jump on air. So the poor lady, she was, God bless her, she was so sweet in the Jetport. She's trying to help me. She put me down for tracking the bag. She's like, I will let you know personally when it comes in from Philadelphia. So now where I'm at is I basically just got in from the Jetport. No bag, no toothbrush. I am in the outfit that I flew from Miami, from LA to the Portland Jetport in, which are shorts and a very, very LA looking kind of outfit. Still haven't brushed my teeth. And that, my friends, is a U.S. National United Airlines shortage.
Krissy in the morning on Q97.9.
And real quick, you want to talk about pet peeves on an airplane. I'm like, yeah, no, there's nobody else in here. This is a one-man show. No one said that we were talking about pet peeves on an airplane, but here I go. So I wrote a couple things down in my notepad while I was traveling yesterday because, let's just be honest, I spent about 20 hours in about 4 different airports. So why not get content for the show? Well, on my way down to LA, there was a guy next to me that passed out before the flight instructions on the runway even started. And I get it. Sometimes I tune out the safety instructions too. It's not great, but when you travel a lot, you know the deal. And you're just like, all right, I know if we crash, I got to pull the chair out and the thing, and I have to float on my butt pad. But the guy next to me, he passes out so severely that it is so evident he starts snoring, just right in my face. The man in my face was just. One of those. I look around, I start laughing, and I'm like, is there anyone else that's going to have my back on this one? No one else is laughing. So I got the flight instructor doing the thing if we crash. They're up there pulling down the mask and whatever. And I got the guy to the right of me just... And there was nothing I could do. Because within this shortage, you have no service. I'm going to write a documentary. The only thing that beat that guy was when I got back from Key West and I told you guys that there was a man on the plane clipping his nails. Yeah. Right on the pull-out table. Right next to me. Starting to realize that I am the common denominator in all these wild situations.
My life be like
Krissy in the morning
Miss Peaches. I have a question. My life be like
on Q97.9.
So all the haters, you got to back off.
Not Portnoy giving Miss Peaches her fourth house on Montauk in New York. Did anyone else see that on Instagram? He was like, Miss Peaches, I just bought you another house. Very, just casually out in Montauk, this probably $1 billion house. Anyways, let's get into this real quick. And I'm doing this live on the radio as I'm going to describe the storefront outside of my studio here at One City Center. Okay, so last week, you guys know I was ranting about whoever this artist is that is going around spray painting it must be their trademark, this huge bumblebee. It's got two wings. It looks like a heart and a smiley face. It doesn't even look realistic. It's kind of cute, but if it wasn't destroying store properties, then it'd probably be cuter. So anyway, there is now, I woke up today, just got back from vacation. It was just one day vacation. I took a long weekend. And I come back to, there is now writing over the bumblebee. And it looks like whoever this artist is must have or might have signed it. Because they're anonymous. They don't tell anybody who it is. And I wrote an article. It's trending on our Q97.9 app right now. And I put up pictures of it as well. Live pictures of whatever the hell this person does, just defacing storefronts. But, it looked like he's trying to do a little mysterious thing going on out there. He doesn't want anyone to know who it is, but now he has signed it in such a way you can't read it still. Like, it's almost like hey, I want to let you know I'm back. I'm going to ruin your storefront again if you try to paint over me, because that's what's been happening. The store owners have just been painting over it, and whoever this person is in the middle of the night keeps coming back and spray painting their tag on it. It's driving me nuts.
Krissy in the morning.
All right, emergency press conference. Emergency press conference.
Emergency press conference. That's an emergency press conference. All right, emergency press conference.
On Q97.9.
And this was an emergency press conference brought to you by the Portland Jetport and every single airport across the world. Now, this is also brought to you by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Without them, I don't have an emergency press conference bit. Now, you know what? Hold on. I need this. Because that is how my brain feels coming out of the airport and straight into a radio show after traveling across the entire world. Now, let me run you through this. A lot of you have been begging me to tell you the full story on our Q97.9 app. I've been getting a lot of text messages like, Krissy, run us through the details because there is a national global tech outage. What's it like flying from Maine to California to Miami and back to Portland, Maine? What is it like? Well, let me tell you. It's chaotic. It's frustrating. And I was traveling for about 15 hours yesterday to get into the Portland Jetport by, I want to say it was about 4:45 a.m. before I was able to try to get my bags. There's a plot twist at the end of this. Let me start you here. So I was going to LA for the Red Sox games. The Red Sox sweeps. They were playing the Dodgers, one of the best teams in the league. It was going to be a great sweep. Well, you would have hoped because we lost. But, the one that I cared about played the best. All right. So more than 1,500 U.S. flights were canceled for the third day straight as of yesterday. As airlines, they're trying to recover from this global tech outage. Now, I don't know where you were when the sirens went off and the emergency press conference happened that there was a global tech outage happening. But where I was in the airport in front of thousands of passengers who got stranded at airports all across the world. Now, I had made it to Charlotte from the Portland Jetport, trying to make it to LA before things had happened to me, before I had to suffer from the repercussions. Because I was in the air when the global tech outage was put out into the world on TikTok and Instagram and on the news. And I remember my parents had tried to call me, but obviously I didn't have any service in the air. And everybody's trying to message me. They're like, are you okay? What are you doing? Or did you get stuck somewhere? And I had made it to Charlotte, but it was weird because the connecting flight is typically to somewhere around Chicago or Iowa to get to LA. And there I was in Charlotte. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, my plane, they had changed it in the air. God knows how this happened, but and maybe the captain knew before they left what was happening, but they didn't want to freak anybody out. So we had to land on a connection flight in Charlotte and then go from Charlotte to LA. So this took me, let's see, I had left Portland, Maine at 10 a.m. I got into LA, time change considered, by 10:45 at night. Yeah, and that was on Thursday, okay? So at this point, there's 1,600 flights that either got delayed or canceled. More than 8,500 U.S. flights were canceled over this weekend, okay? That's Delta Airlines and United. Seems to be that those guys have suffered the most. Now, when I got into Charlotte, I got delayed yet again. And I'm like, things are weird. Things are weird. And I didn't realize how weird it was until I was texting Joey from our sister station at WCYY. He's like, how's the trip going? And I was like, well, I'm in Charlotte right now, delayed. He was like, why are you in Charlotte? You should be in Chicago. I'm like, oh, you're right. I didn't think anything of it until I saw the news flashing. And let me tell you, being inside these airports while all this was happening, I had zero service. And I'm telling you, it felt like the apocalypse because airports generically run, I mean, they're fully dependent on their computers and the internet. And when you have thousands of people, angry people, with their flight change and their flight canceled and their flight delayed, if they can't even get a hold of their family or to try to get online to try to change their flight, now you've got an airport full of very dangerous people. Let me tell you this, okay? Now, I knew something was happening. It felt bizarre, but it wasn't until, all of my service went away. So I'm sitting in Charlotte, not able to contact the person that I was going to meet in LA, not able to contact my family. And I'm just trying to sit here with the flight attendant amongst hundreds of other people trying to get the attention of the flight attendant for their own flight. And I'm talking lines are going out I've never seen lines like this before in my life. And nobody at this point, by the way, knows what's going on because we are the first ones to experience it. And we don't have enough internet to know what's going on in the outside world. So picture being stuck in an airport in the middle of Charlotte, okay? You have no idea why you're there. And the only answers you're getting are, we'll be back up and running in just a little bit. You're like, and you can't call out. Your phone's not working. Kind of feels like an apocalypse. You're unsure what's going on. And when you don't have the answers, because guess what? The flight attendants, they didn't have the answers either. So they're trying to keep us calm because it looked like they had gone into training for this. I'll tell you that. It looked like, there was sheer panic on their faces, but it looked like they were like, oh, okay, they're nodding at each other. Hey, this is what we trained for. It's finally here. It's happening. Don't let everybody know that we're about to freak out. Well, let me tell you, I knew every single one of those flight attendants that were freaking out. I travel a lot. And every single one of those travel agents, they were starting to freak out. Now, when a flight gets canceled, this is the worst case scenario. And, people misconstrue the fact where they think that airlines want to cancel your flight or they don't care. Let me tell you, no, they don't. Because now they've got to work twice as hard to accommodate you, whether that's giving you your money back or redirecting your flight like I needed to. And they've got hundreds of people to redirect that flight to. That's going to take all night. So I'm going to say I was one of the lucky ones that was able to actually get into LA by that time. I thought my flight was just going to be canceled. Whole trip was going to get ruined. But it gets worse. So I go to LA for a couple days. I get a notification because I have the app on my phone, the United Airlines app. I get a notification that tomorrow my flight is canceled. And we're talking from LA to Portland, Maine. Do you know how hard that is to get a flight across the world? You have to do connection flights. And if a connection flight is canceled, you're not getting home. So what I had to do with basically no service because of this national power outage, I had to figure out a different way. What am I going to do? So I had to book a flight because they give it to you for free if you have to rearrange your life. I had to book a flight to Miami. And I did this because I know how easy it is to get from Miami to Portland, Maine. I've done it a million times. I had just done it a couple weeks prior for work. So I booked the flight to Miami. I cut the trip short in LA, which is fine. And I go to Miami for the night. I have a bunch of friends there. We go out. We actually I was able to get into a really, really iconic restaurant called Carbone, and Drake sings about it, that he couldn't get a reservation. So how I got in there, I don't know. That's for a different story. But so, I'll cut out all the middle. I'm now trying to get from Miami to Portland, Maine. Okay. It says my flight's on time. I'm like, great. I scathed this national power outage or internet power outage. That was the furthest thing from the truth, my friends. Okay. So I get delayed from Miami. So you have to go from Miami to Philadelphia at this point. So I go into Philadelphia. You guys, I kid you not, I got delayed from Philadelphia to Portland, Maine by 5 hours. 5 hours. I was supposed to be home in my bed yesterday by 7 p.m. That is how I mapped out my entire trip. I knew exactly what was going on and when I was going to get back, get ready for the morning show the next day. When I tell you I took off from Philly at 1 a.m. to get back to Portland, Maine, that's exactly what happened. So I spent my entire day yesterday, in this airport, delay after delay after delay. But I wasn't the only one. There were so many other people. I mean, there were kids on the ground, sleeping on the ground because it's 1 a.m. and they didn't know what to do. All these terminals had no idea what to do. And the thing is, their food and their restaurants and all of their concession stands, they shut down. They shut down at, I want to say, maybe 8 or 9 p.m. You got to, accommodate yourself because you typically know when you need to get food and stuff like that. But none of us knew we were going to get stuck in the airport until 1 a.m. I was 2 minutes away from calling my boss and being like, guys, I'm so sorry, but I'm stuck in Philly. I don't know what to do. So finally the plane comes. It's about 1:15 a.m. We're sitting in the runway for yet another hour. I am on the plane in Philadelphia for 1 hour, sitting on the runway. And I have no idea what's going on at this point because American Airlines had put out a statement that said the global tech outage is resolved and we're good. Everything's fine. It was the furthest thing from fine. I am sitting here freaking out. I can't call my mom, my dad. I can't call my friends, my boyfriend, nothing, because a part of this internet outage means you have no service anywhere in this airport still. And this is day 3, my guy. This is day 3. So, imagine sitting there, your phone's going to die because it's searching for a signal and everybody around you is going through the same thing. And so we genuinely think, we are under attack. Something is happening. And I can't describe to you the fear. So anyways, we finally take off, which thank God. The plane starts moving. I'm like, yes. We touched down in Portland, Maine by around 2:30. So I'm like, you know what? I'm young. I'll go from the airport to work. So I wait for my bag. And Portland, Maine Jetport. When you go to Portland, Maine Jetport, you get your bag within seconds. There is nobody there. There's 3 conveyor belts, and you get your stuff. You go in, you go out, you're good. That is the beauty of Portland Jetport. However, the bags come, and there's a whole line of people who I recognize from my connecting flight. Nobody's getting their bags. And I am like, why is nobody picking up their bags? So they start rallying. And when I tell you rallying, there is one service attendant in this airport. Because Portland, it basically runs itself. You don't even need a flight attendant in the Portland airport. It is so small, it runs itself. So we've got people lining up, rallying, screaming at the top of their lungs, saying we were delayed for 5 hours, we had no service, and you lose our bags. So, for lack of me I have to get into commercials right now, and I'll get into more of the story later. But I'm watching this conveyor belt just round and around. I am deadly exhausted at this point. No service still to call an Uber because we were in an airport, and all of the airports, it was much more complicated than just, plugging in a server or an Ethernet cable. They couldn't do that. So nobody had service. No bag. Everyone around me, no bag. Crying, screaming. There's little kids on the floor. I mean, this thing was a disaster. So I track my bag. Here's the kicker. My bag's in Philadelphia. I'm like, excuse me? My bag was left in Philadelphia. So not only did I spend 5 hours on a delay with no food, no drinks, no service, you guys, I was staring at I watched the same HBO documentary that I had downloaded on my phone twice in an airport by myself with no service, no contact to the outer world, and they lost my bag. It is now 4:00 in the morning, okay? I've got no bag, no medication, no cell phone charger, nothing. And I am just like, okay, I'm going to walk to work. I'm just going to walk. What a story. This is content. This is content. And I realized I really wouldn't be Krissy in the morning if I did not get myself in the middle of a global internet outage in the middle of 5 different airports from here to across the globe. So if anyone's got any questions, please hit me up. 775-7979. I could write a book at this point because I am now waiting for my huge bag that I had checked to come from Philadelphia to Portland, Maine. And then later on today, I'm going to go pick up my bag. Who knows if that's even the case. But now you have the inside scoop. I'm writing an article up on the whole experience and the people that I interviewed and talked to for being right in the middle of this monstrosity. And it's probably going to trend on our Q97.9 app, so make sure you have that. Go.
Krissy in the morning
Miss Peaches, I have a question.
on Q97.9.
So all the haters, you got to back off.
I love the people right now texting our Q97.9 text line, which you can participate in the show if you want by just downloading our app and texting me. You can call me on there. You can give me a voicemail. But I love the people that are like, yeah, Krissy, during the national Microsoft outage, the internet outage across the world, it didn't even take down Teams or Microsoft anything. So we all had to still go to work. What's the use of that? I'm like, well, the airports are what got taken down. Now, I had one hell of a time trying to get home from LA because of this outage. I just told you the story, but I want to know if you have a story. Is there anybody else listening right now that was trying to actually air travel, that was trying to fly during this outage? Because it was not easy. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Been in Canada, missed a connecting flight.
Oh.
There was storms, all the delays. Everybody was trying to get car rentals to get out of Canada. And so desperate because there was no car rentals, no flights for like 4 days. Ended up by getting an Uber, drive us across the Canadian border, to then drop us off over the border, to then try and find a taxi to get us all the way back to Maine.
You literally had to leave the state to come back into the state.
Yes. And actually, because we were actually in the Canadian airport and we didn't actually go back out.
Yep.
It still showed that we never left Canada.
It's the technicalities, man. They'll get you.
It is. So I feel your pain. I travel all the time for work internationally within the U.S. and it's a constant grind, battle to get yourself home when you just want to be home with your family.
Yeah. Why is it always the times where you just have this vision of being home on your couch? The travel issues set in. It's like the world does that.
It's always that one time.
Always.
It's always that one time where my kid has a game or something that you're you do not want to miss. You need to be there.
Yeah.
And you're trying so desperate and it's awful. I will do anything to try and get home. I've been in your shoes. We have a travel agent that we call and I'll be like, I don't care what you do. I will travel all night, all day, 20 buses, I don't care. I need to get home.
You got to get me to that baseball
make it
game.
Home, go into that game.
Right. You're such a good mom.
48 hours, and you're like, woo, go. Yeah, I try to be.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thank you. Absolutely. You get a lot of people at the ticket counters at the the airports too. You'll be like, hey, listen, I'm a 1K member. I fly all the time. Can you help me out? And they will try and finagle and finagle anyway if you slide them a few bucks to try and help you out. So yeah, you got to do what you got to do to get home.
There's ways. I'll tell you that much. That's for damn sure. Not everybody is the same. And when you think that you're stuck somewhere, you might not. You should always speak up when this stuff happens. But all right, I'm going to turn it to you. Is there anybody listening right now? And you know what? It doesn't even have to be if you were flying like myself. And if you were, I'd love to hear your story during the global tech outage that happened over the weekend. Where were you? What happened? Do you own a restaurant? Do you own a business? Do you own a spa? What is it that your computers just completely just pooped the bed and bad things happened? Because a lot of things happened over the weekend. So call my Bonfire Country Bar hotline right now. That's 775-7979. We're talking about the chaotic stuff that has gone on this weekend. I know I'm not.
It's Krissy in the morning.
Culture shock
on Q97.9.
Which is all made possible by Lee Auto Mall. Now, Culture Shock has got two things on the top of its list today. The first one being all of the flights being canceled and delayed across America right now. They're looking at the total right now is 9,500 flights that were either delayed, canceled, or rerouted. Mine happened to be about 6 of those. So if you have a story and you were impacted by this, one of my friends, Britt, just texted me and she said she's got clients that got stuck in Montana. And another person called and said they are stuck in Texas. So I guess I'm just glad I got back. Work would have killed me. They would have been like, girl, what do you have, a residency in Florida now? I'm like, come on, guys. You're ruining my ability to travel. But suddenly my bosses are going to be like, all right, you're getting stuck a little bit too much. Because remember I got stuck in Miami 2 weeks ago for the early birthday trip. I got stuck a couple extra days. They're going to be like, yeah, okay, we don't believe you anymore, Krissy. But anyways, the second culture shock is a boy from Wyndham. And he is one of the 32 teens taking part in this year's USA Mullet Championship. I love this. Shout out to Elliot. They call him Big Red. His last name is Coleman. I don't even know him, and I didn't even ask if this was okay to talk about him on the radio. But it's in the news on WMTW.com. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's out there, and he's probably excited about it. But yeah, so Elliot, Big Red they call him. He's got a beautiful red mullet, and you know me. I love the mullets. If you see my boyfriend on TV, you're like, yeah, there's the mullet. I can't believe that this is actually a thing, a USA Mullet Championship, a nationwide showdown of business in the front, party in the back. I mean, Coleman says that he has spent the better part of 2 years growing out his ginger rooster mullet, all while bouncing between hairstylists to keep his locks looking just the way he likes them. That's a quote by him. This is amazing. Hey, does anybody know Coleman from Wyndham? Please get him on the show. Tell him Krissy needs him. Krissy needs him to come into the show. Please call me, 775-7979. If any of Elliot Coleman's friends are listening right now from Wyndham, please send me a message on Instagram. I'm Krissy T Radio with a K. You've got my full attention here. You're going to talk about a mullet championship? That is where I thrive. That is where mullets are my favorite thing, especially if they are done correctly. There is nothing like a fresh mullet. There is nothing like a good mullet. So, Elliot, Big Red, or friends of Elliot, please come on the show. Somebody get him in contact with me. I'll give you a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. Now, let's see. This is actually so real that he's got his family in on it, apparently. And I don't want to put words in his mouth before I get his story, because I do feel very adamant about getting him on the show. I think between you and I, man, we're going to find him. We're going to get him on the show. We're going to talk about the mullet championships. You know what? That's the best thing that ever could have happened to all of us. Anyone listening right now, here's some sirens. Please get Elliot Coleman of Wyndham, Maine, and his red mullet. Get him in contact with me on Instagram. I got things I want to talk about on the show. Krissy T Radio.
Krissy in the morning on Q97.9. Krissy in the morning on Q97.9.
Oh, what a Monday. What a Monday. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, honey?
I'm good. How are you?
I can barely keep my eyes open, but we're here.
So this is actually sort of my story. It's my mom. My mom came to visit me for the first time in Maine ever since I moved here.
Oh, was it over the weekend?
Yeah, she came through Boston on Tuesday, and she was leaving yesterday.
Well, she thought she was leaving yesterday.
Well, we actually got her out, which was shocking, because I basically had her booked first class up and down because, again, first trip, wanted to make sure she enjoyed it. It was heck to get her up here. I ended up literally trading her first class seat out just to get her out the door. I was like, I don't care. She needs to get home. She has to get to work. She has a dog. And she had to go all the way back to Texas. So, again, all the way across the way.
No way. So it's one of those things where you literally had to leave the state to come back into the state to leave the state.
Yeah, 100%. But Maine
crazy.
Is really hard to get to, because you're right. I also travel all the time. And Maine just seems to be the one place that's really hard to get to. I do know when I fly into Bangor, they forget about us a lot if we get missed in flights. And so we'll sit on the tarmac until the people come and get you off the plane. You're like, thanks, we forgot we were coming in at 2 a.m. That's okay.
Oh, my God, you're so sweet. Most people would be like, are you kidding me? You forgot me? You're like, no, take
Bangor.
your time. Take your time.
You're great. Love your show. So excited I
thank
get
you.
to hear it now. Even though I live up in central Maine, I drive down south. So love it.
I
Krissy in the morning on Q97.9.
trying to beat my story here because, this national software outage had me flying for 15 hours yesterday on a 5-hour delay, and it resulted in them losing my bags. They're still in Philly. Hello, good morning.
Been in Canada, missed a connecting flight. There was storms, all the delays. Everybody was trying to get car rentals to get out of Canada.
Oh, so it affected you
so
too?
desperate because there was no car rentals, no flights for like 4 days. Ended up by getting an Uber to drive us across the Canadian border to then drop us off over the border to then try and find a taxi to get us all the way back to Maine.
You literally had to leave the state to come back into the state.
Yes. And actually, because we were actually in the Canadian airport and we didn't actually go back out,
Yep.
it still showed that we never left Canada.
It's the technicalities, man. They'll get you.
It is. So I feel your pain.
Oh.
I travel all the time for work internationally within the U.S. and it's a constant battle to get yourself home when you just want to be home with your family.
Yeah. Why is it always the times where you just have this vision of being home on your couch? The travel issues set in.
Oh.
It's like the world does
It's
that.
always that one time.
Always.
It's always that one time where my kid has a game or something that you're you do not want to miss. You need to be there.
Yeah.
And you're trying so desperate and it's awful. I will do anything to try and get home. I've been in your shoes. We have a travel agent that we call and I'll be I don't care what you do. I will travel all night, all day, 20 buses, I don't care. I need to get home.
You gotta get me to that
make
baseball
it home,
game.
go into that game.
Right.
And
You're such a good mom.
48 hours, and you're woo, go. Yeah, I try to be.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thank you. Absolutely. You get a lot of people at the ticket counters at the the airports too. You'll be hey, listen, I'm a 1K member. I fly all the time. Can you help me out? And they will try and find any and finagle anyway if you slide them a few bucks to try and help you out. So yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Let's begin now. Krissy in the morning on Q97.9.
I woke up this morning and I said,
All right, let's put you on mic 3. Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Krissy.
Wait, I'm going to make you go higher. There we go. Okay, how was your weekend?
It was great. I've been in Portland this whole weekend. It was so much fun.
Oh, you're on mic 2, so I don't think anyone really heard you. Okay, there we go. We're going to try that again. So you were in Portland this weekend.
I was in Portland this whole weekend. It was very fun.
And you're from New Hampshire, so, you'll work up here, 3 times a week, 2 times a week?
2 or 3 times a week.
And so I'm like, what'd you do this weekend? You're like, I went to Bubba's Sulky Lounge. It was so much fun. I looked at you and I was like, oh, that's our age difference.
It was so fun.
You liked it? Didn't give you anxiety?
No, because we had gone to a couple bars beforehand and that's where we ended the night.
Got
so
you.
I feel like that was the
yeah.
move. And I also feel like in New Hampshire, there's not a lot of good dancing places. So I was so excited to be able to just bust a move.
Yeah, you had that buffer of I had drinks before, so the creepy clowns in the corner are okay now.
No, I just thought they were funny.
Krissy in the morning on Q97.9.
Huge shout out to my people down in TikTok underneath us at One City Center. Best breakfast burritos in town, I'm telling you. They're only $5. This isn't even an ad. And they're so organic and just, I love them so much. And the people there I just love too. That's what we just got back from grabbing a breakfast burrito in the middle of our commercial break. Okay, my loves, I am out of here. I will see you tomorrow. Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And hopefully everybody who was flying over the weekend like myself isn't impacted by the Microsoft outage as much as I was. And if you are, I hope you grab your bags and they find your bags because they were just lost all over America. So that's been fun. I am going to write an article on my experience trying to travel across the world in the middle of a Microsoft outage. That'll be trending on our Q97.9 app. If you want to get a hold of me, please message me on Instagram, Krissy T Radio with a K. And I'm going to jump out of here right now, okay? I'll talk to you tomorrow bright and early. Remember, if it makes you happy, give me that bad